Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Newsom.
Thank you all. My staff started that. Thank you. Nice of you. Thank you, everybody. Please. I've said this before, but that didn't happen when I was lieutenant governor, so it feels good to be governor. Thank you very much. And Bernard, thank you for your short and generous introduction, and I look forward to the Q&A. I look forward to engaging all of you and picking your brains and seeing what's on your mind. I want just to broadly lay out my bias and make a case for our state, as anyone in my position should do. But I say so congruently, because I actually believe in this state, in its proud past, and in its future. And I think many of you share similar points of view. That said, we are hardly perfect, and we need to speak to our challenges as well. But let me just start with our strengths. And it's foundational. I think it's the spirit that brings so many of you to get together here today, and that is our remarkable diversity. And that can't be said enough at this moment in our nation's history. This is a state where 27% of our population is foreign-born. No other state in America comes close. We're living in the most diverse state in the world's most diverse democracy. I don't think it's a gross exaggeration. I would make a case it's only a modest exaggeration that the majority of the world looks to California in some way, shape, or form to see that it's actually possible to live together and advance together across so many conceivable and imaginable differences. It's a special place, California, a universal state. We actually know what the word pluralism means because we practice it each and every day. Our capacity, not just as Bill Clinton loved to say, to celebrate our interesting differences, we do, but at the end of the day, to unite, as Dr. King talks so evocatively, around the things that bind us together, that web of mutuality. We're all bound together, he said, by a web of mutuality. That's what makes California special. That's what makes this city special. I'm proud of that. But I'm also a student of history, and I want to speak to that history because I think this moment in our history in the United States of America is not particularly surprising. Some say it's unprecedented. We've never experienced anything like it. Others that just do a cursory review of our history know better, and particularly folks here in San Francisco, folks here in the Bay Area. Thank you, Jim Wunderman, for organizing this in the Bay Area Council. I was looking back because 4 days ago, I looked up the percentage of foreign-born in the United States of America. Just 4 days ago, Pew came out with a new estimate, 13.6% of Americans are foreign-born. That's the highest it has been since the late 1880s. In fact, we reached peak immigration in the United States of America in 1890 at 14.8%. Today, it's at 13.7%. Why do I bring this up? Because in 1890, we had a series of other conditions that laid claim to the kind of populism that is so dominant today in our politics. In the 1870s, in fact, in 1873, we had a major stock market crash. We had a Great Depression in the language of the time in the 1870s, 1880s, into 1890. In the 1870s and 1880s, people were fed up with institutions, large and small. There was tremendous institutional apathy. People didn't trust the establishment. They thought the system was rigged and corrupt. There was growing anxiety in the 1870s and 1880s around income inequality that had reached record rates. And there was a guy by the name of Dennis Kearney who took advantage of that. It's interesting today with near peak immigration, coming out of the Great Recession, stock market crash, near peak income inequality, at a time when we don't trust any institution, certainly Congress, the legislature, governor, president, fill in the blank, that we miss the demagogue that comes along to take advantage and exploit those conditions. Kearney was that guy in the 1880s. He had the Working Man's Party. He said at every opportunity that no matter what else we do, after decrying the press as fake, institutions as rigged and corrupt, income inequality and economic anxiety as the leading cause of stress, he diagnosed all of that by saying, whatever else we do, the Chinese must go. He began and ended every speech, whatever else we do, the Chinese must go. He did it right here on California Street. He's a Bay Area resident after all. It's just interesting to me that we are where we are today. The same kind of demagogue comes along, flaming the populist feelings, exploiting Muslims who are here to kill us, Mexicans that are here to, well, take your jobs, and forgive me, the Chinese can take your factories. The similarities are rather remarkable. And I think it's important to bear that out. We need to be students of history to mark this moment. I also want to mark this point of view because it goes deep to your conversation today around tariffs and globalization. There's nothing that guarantees that globalization continues to thrive. In fact, 1890s, it was hardly unique to the United States, that kind of populism. It was alive and well around the rest of the world. Go back your history books, see what was happening in Germany, see what was happening in the UK. At the time, they hated the Irish in the UK. Populism was alive and well in Australia. What happens with populism? It was globalized. Even though they talk in nationalistic terms, it was globalized. But what was so interesting is the one thing they start putting up is tariffs. It is so damn familiar, all of this. Nothing is guaranteed. Don't underestimate this moment. The cultural and the economic anxiety and the demagogue that comes along to exploit that. Don't underestimate this moment. Don't just dismiss these tweets. Don't just accept this as an abnormality. It's not. There's a secret sauce here, and we've seen this movie before. You got to stand into this moment. You got to step up into this moment. And that's why I'm proud of my state, because it's exactly what we are doing. We don't tolerate our diversity, we celebrate our diversity. It's a point of pride and point of principle. We are America's coming attraction. The future happens here first, from an economic perspective, from a technological perspective, and yes, from a demographic perspective. And in every way, shape, or form, the world, I do believe, is looking to us. Not just to live together and advance together, but to prosper together across all of those differences. This is a profoundly important moment in our history, a hinge moment. And folks are going to look back at this moment, and California will play an outsized role. And so that's the prelude to my brief comments. Because with respect, I'm cognizant of the time. Everything's built from that. Everything is built from that. That foundation. You can't build a structure on top of a weak foundation. That's our strength, not our weakness. And we have to export those values, that principle, value, at peril of not being able to survive, let alone thrive in the world that we're collectively trying to build. So that's what animates me. That's what animates, I think, a lot of the work we collectively are doing in California. But what also animates me is why you all came, and animates you, is about also building a strong foundation of economic resiliency at a time of uncertainty. And I briefly want to make a quick argument in favor of your time and energy in this state and your future investment, and then we can sit down and talk about a million other things. We just passed a budget, I'm going to sign in next week, that pays off $34.7 billion of debt we inherited from the previous administration. We just passed a budget that does something California's never done in its history, and if you could find a state in the United States of America that's ever done this, let me know. We use general fund money in a surplus to commit $9.15 billion to pay down pension obligations. You haven't read a lot about that in the news. It's interesting. What you read about is expansion of health care to folks 0 to 26, regardless of immigration status. Record reserves, billions more than is statutorily required. We're sitting on $55 million as of yesterday in cash, unprecedented in our state's history. Resiliency well north of $30 to $40 billion, which is a magic number. Because yes, we are modeling a recession that's more severe than 01, a little less severe than 07, which is about a 3-year, $70 billion revenue hit, which translates to structural imbalance of about $40 billion. 40 billion is the magic number. We're almost there. Most of you probably don't know that, but you should. We're enjoying record unemployment. If you're in San Mateo, it's less than 2%. We continue to lead in every critical sector, including manufacturing, which we always lament about and forget. We continue to outperform. Venture capital, I was reading, I love this piece. There was a great Time magazine piece, 1991, California Dream is done. Darkness on the horizon in the California clouds. They talk about the states becoming just too diverse. In 1991. But what happened in 91, 92, 93? We became America in 2018, 2019. Prop 187, fear of the other, xenophobia on steroids, nativism. Re-election for a governor in 1994, 187's on the ballot. Janet Napolitano's here at the UCs. They weren't debating tuition. They weren't debating state funding. They were debating in 1994 eliminating affirmative action, which they successfully did a few months later in early 1995. In 1994, 3 strikes and you're out. Fear of the other, you don't look like me, you look like someone else, 25 to life. Boy, that politics was alive and well. Just a reminder, it comes back. You can't take it for granted. Fast forward today, I just think it's an interesting fact. We've reformed our 3 strikes, though we have more work to do there. We're trying to reconcile affirmative action issues. Prop 187, thank God for the courts and the Constitution. And now, with respect, I don't mean this disparagingly, I married into a big Republican family, so I say this with love. But the Republican Party is now third-party status in California. It is a cautionary tale to this moment. If the Republican Party and the Trump administration aren't paying attention to that, they don't care about their party and its principles. Walking off the exact same cliff that California walked off years and years ago. But the good news is our resiliency. California's ability to come back and to reconcile all of that and to be in the position we are. 5th largest economy in the world, you know that. Just shy of a $3 trillion a year economy. More impacted by global trade than any other state, depending where Texas and Washington lie on the spectrum. China, Asia, point of pride and principle to double down on our engagement. And thank you to the Bay Area Council for leading that charge. We shut down our Trade and Commerce Agency in 2003 in California. Built up over Reagan administrations as well as Wilson administrations, not just Brown administration and Davis administrations. Shut it down. Finally, with the Lieutenant Governor's leadership, the Bay Area Council's leadership, we'll be building back that infrastructure and once again opening ourselves up to the rest of the world. Lenny Mendoza, my incredible team at the new GoBiz. You're supposed to use GoBiz, but you already know GoBiz. We got a new name. Leading the charge, making a case not just to encourage investment, but to keep investment in the state. Not just a recruitment strategy, a retention strategy. We did a lot of good things in this budget, including, by the way, tax cuts. And none that made me more proud in closing, and I will sit down, than close to tripling our earned income tax credit, which we did yesterday. That is a point of pride. You should be proud of that. Reagan was a champion of that. And this is not about, everybody in this room, regardless of political stripes, should encourage working, should encourage folks that are struggling to make the case that, you're better off with a paycheck than getting a government check. And that's what the earned income tax credit does. And California is now leading the nation in that space in a way that we thought would take 10 years, and we were able to do that in just the last, 10 hours, because that got done late yesterday. Finest system of higher education in the world, and I know we put a lot of sand in the gears. I'm not naive about that in the last decade. Still, no one else comes close. And so you may have been reading all those nasty headlines about the CSU and UC. Please, eat your heart out. Fill in the blank. There ain't any state, no nation in America can lay claim to that. Startups, please. Dominating in startups. And by the way, immigrants leading those investments. California. Yes, the homeless problem. Let's talk about that. Yes, the affordability crisis, housing, the issue. Let's talk about that. But no, there's renewed energy and vigor. Took 20 to 30 years to get in this place. We will get out of it. We've got strategies and plans. A lot of folks are in the what business and the why business. Sacramento, we're in the how business and who business. And we are actually moving forward with demonstrable strategies and plans. No help is on the way. I see it, I get it, and I understand the stress and travails each and every one of us feel around the rental issues and the housing issues and our deep anxiety about what the hell has happened to our state related to the issue of homelessness. It is a disgrace. It is unconscionable, and with all due respect, and I'm proud to take this, it's happened on our watch. We own it. It's not someone else's fault. We own it. Democrats, we own it. We've been in control for too damn long. And with all due respect, we haven't been focused on that issue, certainly from Sacramento. That's about to change. And so support in ways we haven't seen is about to take shape. So I'll end with that, and I'll invite Bernard back on the stage, and I appreciate everybody for the opportunity to spend some time with us.
Good job.
Sorry, I was preaching a little.
Yeah, man. Amen.
I get all riled up. This Trump stuff just, it angers me.
Well,
because it hurts people. I don't like hurt people being hurt.
The way you were preaching, I'm going to raise an offering when you leave here. We got to take advantage of
We've
this.
had a lot of offerings thanks to Clint Riley right in this room, so I appreciate that.
I got to come up with $900 million to build that building that we've been bragging about. So
that's right.
No, but it's really, really great thoughts and just so much to cover in a short period of time. So let me start with a couple of things. First of all, how you feel?
I feel really optimistic. Look, I mean, no one's naive. We're a lot of white water, a lot of headwinds ahead of us, and we're battening things down. That's why when I introduced that budget, we said we're going to pay down this debt. That was not universally accepted up there, but we were able to lock that in. We got rid of all these gimmicks that we had put in place. We had one of these great gimmicks. By the way, if I use it, forgive me in the future, but I closed it. That was one of those payroll things, $1.5 billion, a little bit less than that, just by changing when you pay folks from the 31st to the 1st. That had been on the books for years and years. We flipped that back. So we've created a lot of resiliency, and that makes me feel optimistic that we can weather the upcoming storms in ways that we haven't in the past. And I hear that anxiety from folks all the time. Are you guys paying attention to this? You focused on this. You're paying down those debts. You understand what's happening with unfunded health care liability, not just traditional pensions. You understand the anxiety out there on homelessness and housing. We do, and I think we're objectively making some real down payments, and you're going to see progress in the next few years.
I think you framed the discussion very well. We have so much to be proud of. We got so much going on, and we also have so many challenges. You're a great leader, and you know about focus. So as you think about this next year, in your own mind, what are the top 3 things that you want to get done, that you want to see major progress on?
Well, I mean, I think housing, healthcare, homelessness. But then you say, well, why the hell didn't he mention education? So my point is on focus, I was down at LA Times Ed Board. I loved it. They said, you introduced too many things in the budget. And it was the same day they criticized me for not focusing on the Salton Sea. I said, well, I guess I shouldn't focus on the Salton Sea. They said, no, that's important. I said, oh, I should have done more. I mean, the point is, shouldn't we care about potholes and, infrastructure and ports and airports and how we can lead on international trade a little bit more aggressively, CAFE standards that Trump's trying to roll back, issues of greenhouse gas, how we implement the next phase of cap and trade? Shouldn't we worry about child care and health care and preschool? I think those things matter, and how we deal with the workforce crisis in rural parts of California for primary care physicians, deal with runaway health care costs, address the issue of the anxiety of the middle class and the elimination of the individual mandate and how that's impacting the Affordable Care Act, not just nationwide, but in the state. I mean, all these things are important. So there's focus, but you also have to be a multitasker. And maybe there's a mayoral mindset there, but I think that has to also be present as we drill down on the top issue, which is affordability, broadly described in that housing, healthcare, and homelessness bucket.
That's great. So you're in the room with the top companies in the Bay Area and in the world, and you got the top leaders here. What do you expect of us?
It's growth and inclusion. Businesses can't thrive in a world that's failing. We talk about interdependence, universality, web of mutuality. No leak on your side of our boat. In the spirit of Governor Brown, Aristotle said it best. Can't live a good life in an unjust society. So in a consumer-based economy, it's pretty obvious to the rest of you that we got to deal with this declining middle class. My mom's generation went from 52 paychecks to 104, but now we're going from a 3-class to 2-class society. I mean, this issue of wealth, not just income inequality, is the issue of our time. So unless we address the issue of growth and inclusion, I don't care how big your fence is, how fancy your new, 6-acre Atherton estate is, you're not gonna thrive very well, even if, your market cap's never done better. And so I just think we have to address this issue of inclusion with a sense of deep urgency. I love what Google did in that $1 billion announcement. I love what you did months back. You led the charge. Thank you, Bernard. And in the Bay Area Council, you guys were out front, first in the gate. But there are 100 other companies besides Salesforce that seems to be doing every damn thing, and Benioff, that need to step up. I get it. We're not going to be the cheapest place to do business, but you knew that 50 years ago. I mean, come on, stop. I mean, if I see that on CEO magazine, worst place in America to do business, and yet our GDP growth outperforms every damn one of those other states they highlight. 3.8% is the average GDP rate in the last 5 years. Eat your heart out, Texas, Tennessee. That's always their top 1 and 2. They didn't come close to that. And I guess that's all they score. They seem to care only about numbers. That's a top line. And for all the bitching and complaining, I think businesses are doing pretty damn well. By the way, I'm a business person. I'll remind you, I have 23 businesses. I employ close to 1,000 people. So I don't need folks to start lecturing me about regulations and cost of doing business, particularly in my businesses. Because all those things that are job killers disproportionately impact the businesses I'm in, which is the minimum wage and paid sick leave and health care costs, which disproportionately impact small business. So with all due respect, I don't mean to beat you up here. I love you. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a capitalist, proudly. But, my mom used to say this, we're nothing but a mirror of our consistent thoughts. I'd like to start focusing on what's right for a change. I mean, I can't read a damn article about this city anymore without poop maps and, give me a break. I just did a national interview on Axios. You should not watch it this Sunday on HBO. I mean, it was, It was just the golden oldie of stuff they've been saying about our state for 30 years in our city. I can't take it anymore. You don't like it? Jesus Christ. I mean, why are you still, I mean, seriously, enough. You know, we got to, buck up here a little bit. Focus on what's right. You'll find more of it, and we'll manifest more of it. There's a lot right here. I mean, I don't want to paraphrase the old Clinton line, but it's true. There's nothing wrong with the state of California. It can't be fixed by what's right with this damn state. We're going to deal with the poverty issues. We're going to start. There's been no housing policy in California. I get that. That's changed. There's been no homeless strategy in California. I get that. That's changed. We haven't done enough in the UC-CSU. Trust me. I know, Janet, you still want more money, but it changed this year substantially. It did. Real commitments. We're focusing on early childhood education. Why are we behind in K-12 education? There was a study of 12 other studies that said everything everybody that studied this knows. It's not an achievement gap that we have. It's a readiness gap. California is far behind other states in preparing kids to enter into kindergarten. Okay. And if you're behind in kindergarten, good damn luck catching up. That's why our preschool investments were so important. That's why our investments in nurse home visits are so important. That's why our investments in prenatal care are so important. That's why our focus on 0 to 3 is so important, to build that architecture. We've done nothing in that space meaningful. We're starting to reconcile that. And so these are opportunities. And by the way, historic money in K through 12 education. We're going to get out of the 40s, I think, which is remarkable in and of itself. We put $4.4 billion in addition to our mandatory requirements deep into special education, unprecedented amount of investment in special education, and $150 million to address the legitimate crisis of teacher retention, not just teacher recruitment, which is a real issue in this state. So we're making progress, and I hope we all start focusing on some of those things, not just that 13.3% damn tax rate.
All right. What? Okay. Now, turn the corner to something else. So thank you very much for once again putting context and highlighting how diverse our state is, and it's a beautiful thing. Beautiful. And by the way, our wonderful Lieutenant Governor did the same thing this morning. Oh, good. And she's awesome. I should have
looked at her notes.
She's just awesome. Given the summit is about the Pacific Summit and how we continue to build relationship with our neighbors and other countries around the world, what does this mean to you? How do you see us taking advantage of this moment, making sure that we're doing the right things for the global economy as well?
Look, I remember years ago we got frustrated back in the day when we had no trade offices, and San Francisco opened up its own trade office in Shanghai and Beijing, called China SF program, working with the Bay Area Council. You all got frustrated a few years back in the previous administration, and you got Governor Brown, and y'all flew him out there, opening a trade office. And, if you don't go, you don't know. We got to sort of reach out. We got to connect again. We used to have trade offices in every point of the globe, and we were intentional about it because we recognized the unique status, this gateway status to the Pacific and to Asia broadly. San Francisco's always understood that. Right? 33+% of the cities, Asian descent, first and largest Chinatown in the United States, the oldest relationship, formal relationship with China, which was Shanghai, San Francisco's sister city, a point of pride with Senator Feinstein when she was mayor. We got to continue those investments. We've got to open up our arms, and we've got to make a case anew for California. You go to some of these trips overseas, and you'll see other states with all kinds of presence. California is nowhere to be found. This is a nation state. Again, we are larger in population, not just GDP. I said all but 4 nations have higher GDP, but our population is larger than 163 nations. We got to act like that. And so I think that is what's been missing, and that's why you have a lieutenant governor now empowered to lead those efforts, continue to support Charlotte Schultz, who is, in legendary status in terms of her international commitments and connections. And get back in the game.
Right on.
Step up our game.
A specific question, high-speed rail. How do you see that project being completed?
Well, we're trying to put it back on track, with all due respect to the administration, the irony of their efforts to try to pull close to $1 billion from the project. We're committed long-term to the project, but folks, you got a $100 billion project and we got $20 billion. Now, I hope we can find some more money. But until then, I hope we get something from this. And that's what I want to do. I mean, we had all these projects, all these places, and it was going to amount to nothing in 10 years. It was going to be a modest little project between Madera and you know, I don't even remember where else. And I'm not here to disparage Madera, but I want to get it down to Bakersfield because Bakersfield has an infrastructure that connects into LA, and I want to get it up to Merced because Merced has an infrastructure that gets into Silicon Valley. So that was our big announcement that made everyone a little nervous. And so we're going to stretch it to 163 miles. We're going to get that done. We're going to finish the environmental work on the northern terminus. We are fully committed to getting Caltrain electrified, continue the projects that we already are encumbered in the northern and southern part of California. Get all that done, get the demonstration project complete, fulfill our obligations under the ARA grant, which is the great irony of Trump's completely illegal effort to take the money. The money was predicated on the first phase being done in Central Valley. That's what I not only recognize, that's what we committed to, and yet doing so highlighted the issue, which highlighted an opportunity for him to pull the Band-Aid, which is what he does best. As you may know, we filed a lawsuit against that, and they decided to settle in that lawsuit, and that money's now in abeyance. They were trying to move that money elsewhere. Now they cannot do it. We were successful because they realized the limits even of their executive authority. So I'm committed, but the only way we're going to get it done in closing is you got to get the private sector involved. The only way we're going to invite the private sector is to prove we can get something done. And if we can get that demonstration project, 163 miles, done, and we can get that done, we've got the money to do it. Then we will have the only fully functioning segment of high-speed rail in this hemisphere. And we're going to be able to finally market that to get it into Silicon Valley as the second phase, and then ultimately up here and down through the Tehachapi's over the San Gabriel Mountains into Southern California. I think we can do it, but you've got to do it by being a little more honest about it, a little more transparent about it, and a little bit more sober about it. And with all due respect, I don't think those things were always present in the conversation. It was an ideological assertion. Now it's a very pragmatic project.
So rapid round, yes. So rapid fire in our last minute together. First question, so far, biggest aha as governor. What has been the biggest aha?
The ability to do big things at scale. The extraordinary leadership in the legislature. The collaborative tone and tenor that persists up there with not just the speaker and the pro tem. Yes, they've been extraordinary, but down the line. I didn't know, good people aligned broadly in policies, maintaining a framework. You don't have to be profligate to be progressive, getting things done, working collaboratively. Wow, that's aha. It's really been incredible. I love people just ginning up headlines, but it's small ball, some of these differences. It's really extraordinary, and it's in such obvious contrast to what is not happening in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Roughly, time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed, what does that mean to you?
Well, the time that my 3-year-old wakes me up, Dutch, which literally is when when is daylight savings coming back? We're going to lock in the new daylight savings. I'm over this daylight savings. So that's 5:05 or something until I get that last one, that third or fourth, one more book.
Okay.
The 9-year-old. Thank God. My wife's been out of town. She just got back. Oh, what a day this is going to be for me.
In a average week, how many times a week you're exercising?
Well, I was 3 or 4, but I twisted my damn back, so I'm struggling a little bit. But no one cares about that. But 3 or 4 days a week. Maybe I can join you at Kaiser after this.
Absolutely. Final question.
Boxer or briefs? Where are you going with it?
This is my next career. Final question. You're also the product of a great father.
Oh, God bless you.
Your best memory.
Oh, come on. I don't have a best memory, but what's indelible to me is the outdoors. And it's a reminder. It's a reminder of me as a father. Those things are etched in your mind. You don't even realize it. And then you look back, it's the time on the Rogue River up in Oregon. It's the time in the Middle Fork of the Salmon River. In Idaho was the time I was with him in Africa. It was the time in Hunter's Liggett down near San Jose where we were tracking mountain lions to put collars on mountain lions. And we got our first mountain lion and hear those dogs barking going down there. Those are the memories. And it's just a reminder life's just a series of magical moments. And the key for all of us is to find more of those magical moments in our lives. At peril, be judged not to have lived. And so for all of us, I think that's a good reminder. He just lost my father a few months ago. And so, you know, those are the reflective moments. But as a new father, it's also an incredible opportunity to shape a generation of young folk.
I'll never forget, and I've told the story many times before, my father and I working on the beach. I was just growing up in Kaiser Permanente. I was starting to make it. I wanted him to see that it was worth everything. I took him on the trip to Hawaii. We're walking on the beach, and he gets into this, wow, I never thought that I would ever see a place this special. I pound my chest, say, yeah, Dad, I did this. And he keeps going. He said, wow, this is like heaven on earth. Wow, I can't believe it. So then I start to feel guilty that maybe I went too far. So I turn to my father and I say to him, I say, Dad, you see all of this? He said, yes. I said, I have problems like everybody else. And he said, this may be true, but the difference is people like you can take your problems to places like this. That has guided me throughout my life. The privilege that we have.
Yeah, you can't take it for granted.
The privilege that we have to be in places like this.
Yeah.
And I would tell you that my father would be pretty damn proud of me that I had the honor of interviewing you.
No, I don't know about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Governor
God
Newsom.
bless. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, everybody.